All right, what's up guys? We are here in Austin, Texas. Just went to Brand Builder, learned so much, met so many people. Actually, I didn't really learn much at the event because I didn't go to the event. I just went to the networking stuff. So we're actually going to talk to Greg Mercer. We're at his house now. We're gonna go to Jungle Scout tomorrow. But yeah, just go talk to him, learn about what he's doing. And but the most valuable thing about being a brand builder here was all the people that we got to meet. So many amazing people and lessons, and you'll hear about those lessons later. But let's go talk to Greg at his house. Jungle Scout, and I want to talk about the cool case study that you guys just released. So I'm always interested in the best tools and the way that they work on more of a fundamental level basis, and then also getting to know the CEOs of each company. So who's got the best data and who is improving all the time, and then who is ethical and doing ethical things with the data, because I think that's all important. So you gotta tell us a little bit about that case study.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna break it down and try to find holes in it.
Cool. So yeah, I really like Brock and like how data driven you are, you know, because like I'm the same way, and I'm always like very skeptical of everything, you know. So I'm like, all right, how'd you find out that, or whatever else. But we're specifically talking about the sales estimates. So as you guys probably know, Amazon doesn't release actual sales numbers for products on Amazon. The tool providers that show you these are estimates, and they're derived based off different data points. Okay. So this is something like Jungle Scout takes a lot of pride in, but really even just like the past 4 to 6 weeks, we made some like major breakthroughs, and we found out these like different little pieces of data that we can use that really like increase the accuracy. So after doing that, we're like, wow, we're like really proud of this. Like we're confident that it's the most accurate on the market. So we're like, how can we, you know, it's one thing to say like, oh, we're the most accurate, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because everybody always says they're the best,
yeah.
Like in everything, you know, like all these
right.
crazy pills and stuff like that. It's like,
sure.
Does any of this work? So like, does any of this software even work? You know, like so.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're like, how can we like prove this to the world in like a defensible method that that is very, very difficult to poke holes in? I actually, before we started, I challenged Brock to like try to poke holes or ask tough questions about it. So what we did is we ran Facebook ads as well as emails asking real sellers to opt into a case study. In order to do so, they had to share their Seller Central account. So they went to Seller Central, they gave us the permissions to access their business reports, and then we could view all of these sellers' business reports and how many units they actually sold the past 30 days.
So how did you choose these people? So like, did you just kind of like send out like, hey, we're gonna do this, and like?
Yeah, so we sent it out to our email list, and we didn't want to, one hole that I imagine people would try to poke is like, well, those are like, that's your audience, maybe like you're using their data for other things, whatever. So in addition, we ran Facebook ads asking people to opt in. That was actually very expensive, but it was worth it. Because like,
oh yeah, hey, can you guys give us all your data? Like,
yeah.
What a great ad. Oh, like no ask, you know? Like.
The CPA was kind of high, but it was worth it.
Yeah, right.
Because about half the people in the case study came from the ads instead of
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So then what we had, I forget the exact number, it's in the report, but I think like 50, 60 sellers or something that like opted in. And from that, there was, again, we'll have all this in the case, but I think like 1,000 or 1,200 ASINs.
Okay.
So I feel like that's like a big enough sample size to really understand. Like it's hard if it's just like 1 or 3 products, or sometimes people try to compare that. And it's just not a really, in my opinion, like a big enough sample set to like get some good numbers from it, you know?
Yeah.
So it was about like 1,000 to 1,200 ASINs. And then what we did is I was like, okay, if I was someone else looking at this case study and you just said like, oh, we're like this most accurate, whatever else, I'd be like, yeah, that's BS. So what we did is the people collecting the data recorded their screens, and it's unedited. So you can see them like choosing the business reports from one account. You can like see the numbers are there. And then they run Jungle Scout, and they run AMZ Scout, and Viral Launch, and Helium 10, and Amazal, and whatever else. There's like 10 different tools. So like you're looking at the Seller Central count, and then they run all the tools like back to back to back to back. So you can see like the real numbers that all of them are showing.
Yeah.
And then like we're publishing all that as like part of the case study as kind of like proof of the numbers associated with it.
Okay, so that's it. So you verify that it's like, hey, like there's video here. Okay, so that's cool. So the collection part. So now the question would be the distribution. What was like the distribution by category? Like so, because like every category is kind of different. So
Yep.
was there some issue with that, where some were like kind of lighter, or some are heavier, or like?
Yeah,
Because obviously private label is like there's a couple of ways. Like it's probably not too many industrial and scientifics.
Sure. So again, yeah, you can get like all the exact numbers as like part of the case study, but some categories were weighted heavier than others. Of course, like we wish we had like 100,000 ASINs or like something big.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where it's like, okay, like we feel like the sample set we have is like diverse enough. I don't think all categories are represented, but most of them are.
Okay.
And just for clarity's sake, this is just for the U.S. marketplace. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so U.S. Heavier in a couple categories and whatnot, but so what were the? Let's talk about what the findings were,
Sure.
And then we'll go ahead and go backwards. So now it's like the backstory of how it went, and then it's like what are the findings, and then now it's like
Yeah. So what we did is like we took those like 1,200. We had to do some data cleaning, and what I mean by that is if you only had to like control the buy box for like 70% of the time, that wouldn't be like accurate of how many sales that listing had the past month, right?
Because every day is different.
So I think we did, the data scientists did this, but I think we did a minimum threshold of like 98 or 99% of buy box control.
Okay, yep.
Because if you're that, it's like, okay, that's probably close enough. Right, I think it's like maybe like 1 or 2 or whatever. And let's see, that's the only other thing we had to do to kind of like clean the data would be if in some categories, there's like 3 or 4 categories, there's only like one bestseller rank given for all the variations. So it's like all kind of combined.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh man, okay, cool.
That's
Somebody
probably a
remember to
discussion.
talk about that for another video, because that's where I really need help.
Yeah.
You are good at remembering Sammer.
Right.
Can you remember that?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
What was
All
it?
right,
What was
yes. Go subscribe to Sammer's channel. Subscribe to his channel. He helps my life. I know, Sydney's great. He helps you too.
What was it though? I was listening.
Oh no! Come on.
There's a
Okay.
few categories that all of the variations, the child products, share the same bestseller rank.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the categories, all like the child products have their own bestseller rank.
Yes, that's a video I said like I don't know to figure it out yourself. So that would actually be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another video.
The products that are the child products that share all the same variations, we combined those because the majority of the tools just gave one sales estimate for all the child products combined. Does that make sense?
Yep. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, I have another video about that, which we'll record in a little bit, so you check that out. Like, let's go on with that. So, all right, so you cleaned the data and you took out some discrepancies.
Yeah, and just those are just the ones that like weren't controlling the buy box enough, or that needed to be combined because of the child product things. So,
Okay.
And then what we did is we took the averages and the medians of all of the percent variations. So what, if you're not familiar with that, like a
Make
percent.
that in like creative person speak.
Yeah. So like variation would be like the deviation. If the actual sales were 110 units per month, and the estimate was 100, then the percent deviation would be 10%.
10% of
Right.
the number given. So if this
It was
wasn't
10%
so
higher.
if this was instead 1,100, then the 10% deviation would mean 1,000 or 1,200, and somewhere in that range. Correct?
Yes.
So for the non-math people, that's what that means.
Yeah. So, or like put it in more layman's terms, it's just like how close to perfect accuracy are you? That'd be an easier way to describe it.
You know what's interesting? Okay, so you're about deviation, and what I found was that the biggest part of the market where Jungle Scout was best, from my personal experience, was you guys were way the best at the low ends, and that was where it was the most important, especially with high-priced products that are doing 100 a month. That deviation really makes a big difference. If like all of a sudden it's a huge variation. And it's a high price point, like, because it might be, if it's 100 a month and then it's actually only 30, and that was like, whoa, that's like 70 for, like, it's just a huge difference in my opinion, like, especially when you're looking at the distribution of a market.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Cool.
go.
So yeah, if you want to see the results, so then after we took that, the deviation, we took the averages and the medians of those. So the difference right there, the average, you just take the average of the sum divided by the number of numbers in there, okay? And then the median is the middle number. So if I have like 10 values, like 1 through 10, 5's the median, that's like the middle value in that group. And what we found is the medians, and if you're like a statistician, you'll be like, duh, we already know that. But the medians is like probably a more robust way of gauging the accuracy, because with the means or the averages, for example, if the real sales was 1 and it's selling 3, then that's like a 300% like deviation from like accuracy. So you're averaging in that like 300 with a whole bunch of like 10s and 20% or whatever else. So like those outliers kind of throw it off, even though you might not be that far off from the actual. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So essentially, like imagine the difference between mean or like median and mean. So like look at the most people, like if you look at wealth of people in the country, what is the mean versus the median? So it's like what the mean would be like if you were in the exact middle of like 50% of people were richer than you or 50% were poorer, you're the guy in the middle. But the average, it would be way higher weighted because of the 1% way up here. And just how big their distribution is. So like median is important because it's the
Yeah, like another good way to probably describe it would be like a median is similar to the average after removing outliers. Or that's the way you can think about it probably.
Yeah.
Like if you removed all the outliers and then took the average, that's usually about the same thing as the median.
That's a simpler way.
The statisticians watching this will be like, yeah, duh, we already know medians are more robust. So I'm going to share with you the median deviations from perfectly accurate, okay? So with Jumbo Scout, what we found was 25.4%. So that would mean, let's just call it 25%. So that means if we're estimating 100 units per month, the median deviation of that, so that would be like the most common, would be we're estimating, or if the actual was 100, we're estimating that sells between like 75 and 125.
Okay.
So this is like real life what you can expect in like accuracy. So same thing, if we're estimating that it sells 400 units per month, in reality it would be between 300 and 500.
Oh, okay. The median.
That's the median of all the results. That'd be like the most common. So sometimes that range would be tighter, sometimes that range would be larger.
Yeah.
But that's what you can like, that's a good way to think about it. Sometimes people say like, well, how accurate are these, since like Amazon doesn't actually share it? A good way to probably just think about it, if like using Jumbo Scout, would be 25% plus or minus.
Okay, yep. Okay, yep, that makes sense. So one other thing would be I'm kind of interested in the distribution of, like, was there any categories where there were extreme outliers?
Yeah, good question. Do you want me to share the rest of the results, then talk about that? Or
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You're organized. Yeah, this is good.
I had this in Slack, so I was like, I can just read these off.
You're a better CEO than me.
So the next, the ones who got second place was Viral Launch with 34.3%, which is still pretty good. After that was Helium 10 at 46% deviation. After that, Zonguru, then Scope, then Ace Inspector, then Unicorn Smasher, then Amazal. And the bottom two, some people say like, well, should I use this for free? So like, for example, like Unicorn Smasher, it's really nice that it's free. And, I'm friends with the founder, Travis, and everything. But let's just talk real quick. Like their median deviation was 92%, which in my opinion, that's getting like pretty far off. That's close to 100% off. So that means like if they're estimating 100, 92% deviation would mean it sells between 8 and 192.
Yeah, so that's
we're getting pretty far off now.
Yeah, especially if like
that's kind of like a coin flip.
Especially if it's a fringe scenario and then the whole market sells 8.
Yeah, or the same thing, like if they're estimating 1,000, that means it would really sell between 80 and 1,900.
Yeah, that'd be the more dangerous one because you'd actually go into it thinking.
Right, so it's like all those combined.
Yeah.
So, or like an easier way to put it, like it's estimating 1,000, that really means it sells between 0 and 2,000.
Okay, yep.
So we're getting like pretty far off now from what's like helpful or usable data.
Yeah, yep, for sure.
So those are kind of like the results. And we're going to like publish this case study with all of the raw data and like the proof of how we collected the raw data. And that way like the audience has the ability to like check different categories or different rank ranges or try to like poke holes in the case study or anything else they'd like to do. Because like we're very confident in these, especially like with these new advancements we've made. So like we want to like make that available to everyone. Because like most people only have the ability to like compare like one number, like I have like one product, let me compare that. But it's more helpful if you have like these like 1,000 ASINs and you can kind of look at it like more holistically.
Yeah, that's what I'm interested in. And I mean, everybody's using different algorithms and data collection techniques. So It's like who is actually doing this the best, and then maybe where are there some scenarios where everybody's kind of making it wrong? Because like on average we can be right, but there could be like little pockets where it's like this, all of them are always wrong, you know? And that's the most important thing that I think is, hey, what are like, none of the tools are right here, or like, because you can't be perfect on everything. It's the entire database and the way that Amazon is structured. So like that's where I always try to find ways of like, here it's a coin flip. Like we're good for everything, or like this just be more gray, or like it's more gray. Like have you ever found any of those, or
okay, so
certain general areas? Or?
Yeah, good question. So we just finished collecting this data. Let's see, I've been like 4 days ago now. So I had like, the data scientists had like a little bit of time to like give me some like brief, because I was like very anxious. So I was like, we better be the best because we invest so much damn time and money in this.
Right? Yeah.
So I was like, give me some numbers quick. So what they're also going to do is like in the case study, look at like different rank ranges, like different categories and all these different types of things. So, like give a little more insight for the people who are like very like analytical and like really want to like probe deep. So that's kind of the plan, but I don't have all those that I can pull out of Slack right now.
Yeah, well, and you could also like, I mean, the data, you can make such an unlimited amount of metadata on that would take forever.
Yeah.
There's so many ways you could like splice it. Yeah. So so people could actually go with that and then compare. So if there were like to like, how could somebody like, they're not like, okay, so on average they know yours is the best, but like if they really wanted to dig down deep before they made this, they're that super anxious person who's going to order their first product and they're like, I have to make sure everything, like they could look at this case study and kind of go look at the accuracy and kind of calculate the accuracy themselves from the data by category or something.
Yeah, I think you're welcome to do that.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Send me requests. What do you want to know? Not too many though. Send it to me very structured if you do, please. Make it easy for me. If it's really hard for me, I have time for that. But if you make it really easy and you want it, like I can do that. I love numbers. But yeah, so that'd be cool. So let's see. Overall, yours had you were the least wrong.
Yes. No one's perfect, and we were the least wrong. And
none of them are perfect, but if you want to, like, they're close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I guess we're still like in a relative terms, like 25% versus 34% is roughly like 30% more accurate than the next best, I guess.
Oh, okay. So how long was this data over, though?
30 period, a 1 month period.
A 1 month period. Okay.
So when we were doing, like it took I think like a week to collect all the data. So like each day they were collecting it, and this is like documented, like what data was collected, what date range they used. They looked at the previous 30 days.
Okay.
And then there was one tool called Amazal that gives daily estimates instead of monthly. So the only thing we knew to like normalize that to include in the case, they would just be multiply it by 30.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna start breaking this down now.
You could try like poke holes and like argue that, but I don't really know we don't know of like a better way.
When you give us a 30-day estimate, what is that based off of?
Oh, good question.
Because that's what I always wonder, and that's where I found when you get like an increasing velocity exponentially, that's where your tool drops behind. So why does that happen?
Yeah, so actually like Jungle Scout just changed this about a month ago.
Oh, okay.
Old Jungle Scout, how it worked was it used the current bestseller rank. So how essentially the way you could have thought about that then is like how well if this product continues to sell as well as it has been for the past like day or so, this is about how many it would sell per month.
Oh, okay.
And for me, I kind of like that. I think we might start showing both like at a later time.
I think both.
Yeah.
Show both, because the extrapolate, because then now if you're smart and like advanced or more analytical, and if you're getting something seasonal, then now this is much more helpful.
Like Snapchat.
And but now like people unfortunately see launches and they say, God, that guy's killing it with 3 reviews. Right. I can do it. He's doing it.
Right.
And then they go in because it was just the extrapolation upon 1 day hack.
Yeah. So I think we're actually going to show both, like in
that would be a good idea.
What we found though is people were getting confused, and they were trying to compare that or think of it as how well their product sold the past 30 days. So they would be like, hey, I've only sold 10 the past 30 days, but you're estimating 60. It's like, well, actually what's happening there is you sold like 2 the past 24 hours or so. So that was like extrapolated into like, if this product continues to sell how well it has been for like the past day or so, they would be selling about 60 per month.
Oh.
So that's why we decided to change it instead. And just because we're doing data collection a little differently now too, now we actually track these products for like the previous 30 days, or like we're tracking almost all the products every day. And we collect a whole bunch of data points like the parent category, the rank in that category, the subcategories, the ranks in those subcategories. And then we're also pulling a bunch of other data.
entry category, like that
Yeah.
side of it.
Yeah, and then we're also bringing in now just other things, just because we're data nerds, like price and reviews, and I forget like a bunch of other different factors.
Yeah, so just like that's something I'm actually interested in. Just price and reviews, or like do any other factors other than sales? Have you found anything that might slightly, like I don't want to give away too much, like but like does anything else other than purely sales affect BSR?
Yeah, so that's still to be determined. The way that we're now like building these models is using a like artificial neural net, and some of you are probably familiar with this. A lot of you guys aren't. There's huge benefits to it because it's like a machine learning algorithm. So like over time, it'll get a lot smarter than like even our data scientists can be. The downsides to it is like it's sometimes unclear about how heavily it weights like different factors, whatever else. Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
So like we know that like the end accuracy is like much better, but sometimes it's unclear. Like right now it is to us, and probably until we build like more transparency into it, like how these individual little factors affect and like are weighted differently.
Yeah. That's one of the big problems with AI is that when you build these self-learning models, then they don't just collect and tell you how they work. Particularly, you're just building the system which builds and learns and itself. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I've taken some machine learning classes, so
nice.
So those insights are hard to tell.
Yeah, but my gut feeling is still that sales velocity is the only factor that contributes to the bestsellers rank.
Oh, okay.
It's my current gut feeling.
Okay, so
I'll let you know if that changes.
So is this like somewhat of a linear equation where there's different variables and they just have different weighting factors and that to exponents or something like that, or artificial neural nets work completely differently?
No, so it's not linear. The models that it builds uses like different lines of best fits depending on like whatever fits inside of that kind of like rank range the best, if I understand this correctly. So
yeah, we'll edit this out. Don't worry for the beginners. So, like the guy.
There's people on our team much smarter than I am. So I
for sure. Okay, cool. You're not a PhD in data science. Fair enough. All right. Okay, so the tool is cool. Let's see. What are some other holes that I could try to poke in it? So, if it's only 30 days, then now it's what, the average of the last 30 days? Then that is like, if your BSR, and then what your guys' model shows for that projected out over 30 days. So like if you sold 2 today, then multiply that by 30, so that'd be 60, 1 point here, and so then 3 that day, and then now the average of this, is that how you get your, like when I hit Jungle Scout, it says this many per month. What does that consist of, like?
Right, so if you use that on Jungle Scout today, we'll probably change this in the future to show the snapshot and the previous 30, but just today if you run Jungle Scout, that's the past 30 days. So you can compare it to your sales over the past 30 days now.
Oh,
because
okay.
We're using the data points we've collected each day for the past 30 days. We run the models on it that were built for that day to most accurately estimate that day, and then we sum up the previous 30 days.
Okay, so does your model now take into account seasonality of the entire Amazon platform or categories?
Right. So
that would be the only, like, because I mean, if it doesn't, that's okay, but like it's just so that people could like make their own calculations on top of it, and like, you know, like that.
So I got 2 things to tell you to answer that question. Once, like if you're using like the Jungle Scout Chrome extension, you can click on the sales number and it pulls up a historical sales graph, and that's like how many units were sold each month for as long as we have history. So a lot of these products we have history for 3 or even 4 years. And you can see how many units it sold for like each of those months for the past 2, 3, 4 years, depending on how long this product's been in our system. Just the number that's shown like in the product database or on like the extension, that value right there, that doesn't remove like Prime Day spikes or seasonality or anything else. That's just like actually how many it sold the past 30 days. So like if this is like a toys product and you're doing this around Christmas, like we're showing you how many it's actually sold the past 30 days. So like that's not how many you would sell in February or something like that. But that's where like the historical monthly sales comes into account, and that's where that could be valuable.
Okay. Yeah. So my thing is that with like if it's not adjusting for seasonality, certain categories, like the entire category is extremely seasonal.
Okay, so the models would be the model. You can think of it as like the models would be adjusted for seasonality because they're calculated on a per day basis. So it's almost like seasonality, like down to the day.
Okay.
So it's like how well that product's selling that day. So it's even there's like you're thinking about like kind of like macro seasonality. Like
so like what does the rank?
Whatever else.
Yeah. So like rank 18 in toys and games on December 18th versus that on May 3rd. Would that give me the exact same number or not? That's like what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
Okay.
So there's even more micro than you're talking about is different days of the week.
Yeah.
Bestseller rank of 18 would sell more than another day of the week.
Okay, so you are adjusting for both of those as well as day of the week. Or to some extent? Or
no, to a full extent because like the models are created like on a per day basis. So it's like that models for that day. So that calculates like macro seasonality and daily seasonality and everything else. So like, that's kind of how we've fixed that problem.
Oh, okay. So does
that make sense?
Yeah, because that's okay. So like, here's my thing. So like the rank 18 BSR. Wait. So it does the last 30 days currently. So but like if it's in February or so we had May and we had January. Okay, so it's right there. These are the ways that it's going. So. But the overall sales of Amazon at the time are going up like this, and the rank is stagnant. There's only so many, but it gets a longer list. Okay, so if you go to like the free tool on your website and use that as an estimator, like if I type it in rank 18 in toys and games today, and then I type in rank 18 toys and games tomorrow, does that give me a different number, or is that like a whole different tool?
Yeah, the free sales estimator doesn't use like our newest models.
Okay.
On that tool,
I tell some people to use that, like if they're gonna not spend money on any tool.
That's still like pretty accurate. But yeah, if you use the paid tools, you do have better accuracy because it's taking into account lots of data points. If you use the free tool on the website, it's nice, it's free for just getting started on a tight budget. It gives you like good estimations. But that's just looking at that little snapshot again, and it's also not like our most accurate models.
Oh, okay.
If that makes sense.
So
it's not using the same. It's not using the same thing to get.
Yeah. So like, if I'm trying to go into this and I'm looking at it, so like, let's say the seasonality ramp for like a market ramps up like this. Okay.
All right.
Like, let's say that. So when I do an estimate over here, now it tells me just the last 30 days on the ramp.
Yep.
That's the way that it works currently then.
Yes.
Okay.
Previous 30 days.
Yep. So then what people need to do then is then look at like Google Trends or something and then readjust for what they think should be happening to just expect what they could sell. That's what I did, and that's how I got it. And last day of the eclipse I got it perfectly because I was always adjusting my models.
Okay.
Looking at my data and then looking at supply and demand and then as well as search volume and tying it into that. So like I'm trying to get people of like where are the flaws in these tools and where are they good, and then how can they take like other search engines and tools to like be able to accurately predict and do supply chain management.
So what we're trying to do in the future is, I like that you did that. That's really smart.
Made me way more.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have made it without that.
We're trying to build in some like other data points like seasonalities and search volumes and all these things to do like predictive forecasting like that.
Like so you could see like kind of if it were to maintain this rank, what would it kind of look like
Yeah.
if you were to maintain like the same rank or something,
Right.
like something like
so
that.
So to be clear, that's not in Jungle Scout right now, like predictive forecasting. Predicting the future is very hard.
Yeah.
But
And
that
it
is
takes a
something
lot
that-
of work, and every single day I had to work on it, and I got it right. But like,
Awesome.
yeah, not
Yeah,
everybody
so
can do
that's,
that, and like, yeah, you got to build your business at the same time.
Right.
Okay, yeah. So that is, yeah, you know, I'm just trying to help people better do supply chain management and
Sure.
expect, and you know, that.
Totally.
So, I guess lastly, then, it would be what's in the future of the tool. I'm gonna try to tear it apart from data perspective of like, you know, it's. I just want to like get rid of like I mean, as long as it's general, that's all that matters. Like as long as it's close, that is what matters. It's just I'm trying to remove the huge like, oh, this looked good, but like it was terrible, because that's where you see the comments from people.
Yeah.
This was way wrong, and it's because like there's like these small discrepancies of places
Right.
or like mistakes they made that like if I can like get those types of things out, then as long as you use the tool, then like you're fine, because it was like a generally good idea. But if it was like way wrong, then that's the only time that it's like something could like, you know, crush someone.
Actually, it's like something else that's coming down the pipeline that made me think of that is, so we're trying to like incorporate like more and more transparency into like all of our numbers and like how they're gathered, and what you can expect for them like out of accuracy. Like everyone's always curious about that. So actually what's also like on the product roadmap is something around the lines of let's call it like a confidence score. So like sometimes certain areas of the models are like super tight, and we can be like pretty confident that we can estimate that within like 10%. And like other times, like certain areas of certain models are like looser. So if like we looked at it on a graph, you know, like some part of the graph, like if we're looking at like a line of best fit, there'd be like a pretty big like scatter, and then other parts are like super tight.
Yeah.
So we can tell you like on those areas that like we're super tight, that like we're pretty confident this is like plus or minus like 8%. And then like an area that's like looser, we'd be like, actually we're only confident in this area like plus or minus 40% or something.
So essentially,
like
what is the correlation? Or like, isn't that the mathematical term to how the line of best fit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of how tight the data points are.
Yeah. So I think that that would help for like the scenarios that you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Like, is this like knowing when this is like, whoa, this one is be wary.
Right.
Like maybe start to match against other search volumes on other search engines that are open source, and like look at this search volume as well, because you have a search volume tool too, right? Yeah. So then like there's ways to match different types of volume on Google, Bing, and then as well as those, and as well as looking at sold on eBay, and then you can like start to correlate all these together to see like if it's less confident, like how could you also get other ways to become more confident.
Yeah.
But
or
like,
you could just try like the 999 thing if it has less
that too,
or
or
like
like
things like that.
Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't work. But some markets it does work. Some sellers now have their max order quantities pretty good. Yeah, so
yeah, just another data point, right? That you could potentially use.
Yeah. No, I think that would be valuable. I think if you guys add the confidence score like that, and then also like the ability to flip, and then predictive into the future, that would be a cool, like even like it's already a good tool, and I have it. This is the first one I bought. Then that would be cool, really sweet. So
why don't you guys tell me what you would like to see out of it?
Yeah, that's what I want to see. What do you guys
put it in the comments below?
Yeah. So that's the other thing. Is like I like to see the companies and like people are like it's like wanting to build it up. You know, it's like
totally. That's what. Like the one thing, you know, competition can sometimes be frustrating. Like it was kind of nice back in the day when we were like the only tool in the market, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet.
But at the end of the day, like competition really is good for everyone. Like I'm a strong believer of that. Like it's really nice to have like other people like trying to like make a tool better or whatever else, and then like because it really does like improve it for everyone.
It improves it for the customer.
Totally.
Yeah, and it makes a fun game for you guys too. Then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like part of what makes it fun. But yeah, so I mean, all of our, you know, what made me think of that is like all of our like product roadmap is 100% dictated like by the customer, like what the customer is looking for. We're very not so in the mindset of like building features or like whatever else to like match like other competition out there, because a lot of times like they might have stuff that's just like junk and people don't want it, they wouldn't use it, and it clogs up the tool or whatever else. So we have like very much like a customer mindset of like, we just want to build exactly what the customer wants, or like can help them. So I would love to see in the comments what you guys like to see. I'll read them all and respond to say thanks for telling me about it. And that will definitely like dictate the future of the tool.
Yeah, make sure to do that, and then I'll like tell them if they're not like, hey, I want to see this. Lots of people want to see it.
Yeah,
that's what I like, and so that's what I like: competition, people building the best tools, have good ethics, and then I'm out here to like share that information and make sure that we're all going to the right places and making our own decisions, and that everybody's just getting better. So yeah, that's I'll maybe do my own video where I look at the data and show you guys kind of in depth. We talked about high level here, but I'll show you guys in depth my analysis of what I think of that. But for what it sounds pretty cool. Yeah, man, well, thanks. I really appreciate it. And yeah.
Take care.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.